We think going the extra mile means giving 5-star service when much less would do. It's when you go above and beyond the call of duty to offer something special. But that's not really what it meant originally. Here's how Jesus puts it in the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew chapter 5 from verse 38. You've heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if someone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. If someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles, the extra mile. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Jesus is giving us 3 parallel responses to being wronged. We are to turn the other cheek to violent aggressors. We are to give our cloak to malicious suitors. And we are to go the extra mile with whoever is forcing us. Now, it's not hard to imagine such forcing in the first century in Judea. Roman soldiers were legally able to make Jews carry their heavy packs for 1 mile. That was the law. They were able to make people go for 1 mile. And when a Roman soldier said, go 1 mile with my pack, they were not asking. They were telling. They were forcing, really. And so what should a Christ follower do in that circumstance? Jesus says, you should say to the Roman soldier, 1 mile? Tell you what, you look tired. Why don't I carry it 2 miles? Looks like you could do with a break. Going the extra mile is not about putting in extra hours to impress the boss. Unless, that is, it was a bullying boss who was forcing you to work beyond what was reasonable. Imagine if we responded to the bullying boss with some tit for tat. Our boss compels us to work under unreasonable conditions, and then perhaps we would grudgingly submit to their regime, but we'd get back at them in other ways. We'd do a slapdash job or something like that. What would be the response of our boss? Well, surely there'd just be this perpetuation of the cycle. Evil for evil, more evil for more evil, and so on. Or imagine if we responded by shrinking back, passively taking on burden after burden as this bullying boss calls us to do more and more. Imagine that we just never say anything because we don't want a confrontation and it grinds us down into the dirt. Some people imagine that this is what Jesus is suggesting here. But actually, what Jesus wants is for there to be a confrontation. But it's a very different confrontation. It's the shock of presenting yourself to the oppressor as a willing sacrifice. That will shock them, won't it? This is the third way to respond. You don't lash back and you don't shrink back. Instead, you offer yourself to the person with surprising grace. And this response would never naturally occur to us. And so Jesus says, why don't you shock the person who is being unreasonable with you? Shock them by going the extra mile. This is not answering evil with evil, and it's not accepting evil as the norm. It's confronting evil with good. It's standing firm in unconditional blessing. Only this breaks the cycle of evil. Because it says to the bully, it says to the oppressor, it hasn't worked, has it? You want me to diminish myself, either by descending to your level in tit for tat, or by bowing under your power plays. But here I am, rising above it all, with an unnatural buoyancy. We say to the bully, you have not won. I have arrested the cycle of aggression. I'm outmaneuvering you. I have entirely changed the terms on which we are relating, and my grace will convict you more than justice ever could. Over the past few days, we've been seeing how Jesus is not only and not mainly a lawgiver. First and foremost, Jesus is the law fulfiller. So how does Jesus go the extra mile? Well, unjustly, the Roman soldiers compelled him to carry a load that did not belong to him. And yet he did not merely take on himself that burden, that cross. He took the sins of the world on his shoulders. For those with eyes to see it, we are confronted at the cross. But this confrontation is not payback for our evil. We are confronted when we see his willing sacrifice. We were the aggressors. We shouted out, "Crucify him, crucify him." and He repays us by opening wide His arms. It's not His justice, but His grace that shocks us, and we are won. Now Jesus turns to us and He says, try it. Try it with others. Try it with those who would oppress you. Go the extra mile. This is the counter-conditional grace that shocks and wins the world.